Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very interesting episode of CAOverwatch since it's the new year. And we're just coming back from our Christmas holiday and our break. Sorry for that. Chris and I have decided this is going to be a special episode where we look back at our past year's predictions before the season started and sort of look back on what we got right and what we got wrong. So if you guys are interested in sort of, seeing, where Chris and I looked like absolute geniuses, but also seeing some of our Papega takes, and this is the episode for you. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Spencer. With me is Chris. Chris, should they hit that like and subscribe button, or should they just keep on watching this video with uninterrupted?
I don't think they should hit it. I think they should smash that like and subscribe button. Smash it as hard as you can. As hard as you smash your controller when you lose a game.
Yeah, maybe not that hard because you don't want to break it, right? Because if you're my controller, unfortunately, the thing's broken. But yeah, if you guys like our content, please hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the comments. Tell us what was your favorite prediction that we got right and what was your favorite prediction you got wrong. And, let us know what your predictions were that you guys got right and got wrong before the season had started.
And fun fact, we got a lot of stuff wrong and not a lot of stuff right.
No, I guess, yeah, fair. I got some stuff right, but that's what this episode's for. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Chris, where do you want to sort of start here? Do you want to start with sort of like, the Toronto Defiant, or do you just want to start with general topics?
Yeah, let's play around with the Toronto Defiant because I think that everyone's here and likes the Toronto Defiant. They're here listening to that, so we'll put it right at the start so you guys can listen to that first. Spencer, power rankings in Toronto Defiant. I think someone here was right and someone here was wrong. Who was that?
But I was really close to being right. I look back on that episode. I was so close because I had them at 11, and I still think that there was multiple opportunities that this team had to sort of push themselves into their 11th seed. But unfortunately, I was the one who was wrong, and you were the one who was right. Chris hit him dead on at 15. I believe they actually finished 15th.
They finished 15th. I have that.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we were right and wrong about the prediction. So Chris, since you're the one who was right, I'll let you go first. Sort of what did you just kind of nail about this team back in? Again, guys, this is our preseason 3 prediction. So this was before we had seen any games played. You can watch those videos. We'll put them in the link below where we gave our preseason power rankings. And we're just looking at what we got right and wrong back at that point.
Is like because of these conversations, but like we don't know like if that's similar or different for other teams. So I'm just gonna say the reason why I have them ranked so low is because from an objective point of view, there's a lot of question marks around them. And I'm saying that in a sense like Calix agilities were bad, but they came from a team that was really not doing too good.
Kareev and Agilities came from the Valliant, and then Calix came from Boston, who's actually doing worse.
Well, yeah, there we go. Nevix, so like tank line. Okay, yeah, Nevix like he's rumored to be good, but he's rumored to be good, right? He was playing under a great team. He could be great, but like we realistically
haven't seen him.
Not for sure. And like Beast Halo, once again, like we've heard about how good he is, but we just don't know. And then with the backdrop of how bad we did in World Cup, it just like left a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a little higher for me. It's just like if I try not to drink the juice, it just seems like there are a lot more question marks on this team than we usually say.
The biggest thing for me was I was drinking the juice of these players before they got signed to the Toronto Defiant. That's why I don't mind.
Yeah. You know what, Spencer? I think my biggest win on that was calling Nevix and Calix. I knew right from the get-go. I had my skeptical kind of thoughts about Nevix. We hadn't seen a lot of him. There was some good talk about him, but you know what? That may have been let's up his stock so we get sold to somebody else type of talk. I kind of called that from the start, and I think that's something that helped me out from predicting that 15th place. Also, Calix, I was never on high on him in the first place, and it kind of goes to show he didn't really, fortunately, not trying to downplay him at all, but didn't really have a lot to add to the Toronto Defiant roster. And I gotta say, also, my statistically sound Z-scoring method of scoring things put them at the 15 spot. So you know what? Can never not trust numbers.
Stats don't lie. You're not wrong. Yeah, I think, and I mean, we kind of give our end of the year thoughts. I think for me, the biggest thing that I had misread about this team, well, to be fair, I had sort of countered in travel when we talked about this team, right? About how their communication wouldn't be an issue, that they would get along, that the traveling, you wouldn't see a lot of internal conflict. So I'd like to give myself a bit of a mulligan in that regard. where that was something that we talked about being a benefit for this team, and it ended up really not mattering at all. Obviously, unfortunately, due to COVID. But yeah, NYXL was a pretty big whiff on me. I think if you go back and you watch the video, I talked about him potentially being a top tier off tank and one of the best free agents available at the time. And
oh my gosh,
I definitely drank the Kool-Aid on that one because while he wasn't bad by any means, again, it sounds like we're hard knocking and we're not, but just I had really high expectations, and I for the most part I don't think that he had lived up to them. We saw moments of brilliance, and whether that be a fit issue with him and Beast, whether that be just a tough start to the season, and then you kind of get in your own head, and the whole team sort of underperforms, so you don't look as well. But yeah, NYXL maybe wasn't the top 5 off tank that I was hoping him to be. I did think that he was one of the weaker parts of this roster. And in terms of Kellex obviously had a ton of success on British Hurricane, has actually recently been picked up for the London Spitfire for next season. So, I mean, hopefully he turns it around. Obviously, when he was on British Hurricane, they absolutely walked through the competition, although they were walking through the competition before he got there. So he's one of those main supports where he won't make or break a team. But yeah, when he was on Toronto, I did think that he was underperforming. One of the weaker spots that I thought on that Toronto Defiant squad, and maybe again that was a fit issue, but those were definitely two things that I had sort of swung and missed on.
One thing that we both got wrong was the fact that we didn't foresee a leadership issue. I thought, at least with NYXL having that championship mentality under his belt, that we would have a team that was solid level. We have him, we had Julius and Kriv, who have been there since season 1. They are young, but they're more experienced now. I thought we would almost be, set for that category. And I think that's one of the biggest things that held us back. So it's definitely something that we both missed in terms of Toronto.
Yeah, and even Sureforward, right? I always thought that default, Sureforward is a very vocal player, very smart player, cerebral player, that he would be able to sort of pick things up and sort of help the leadership of the team. And I mean, I think he did at the beginning. That's one of the reasons why they had so much success early on. But very clearly, things went downhill fast in that regard. And you're right, leadership was a big issue for this team. So we had just had the interview with Jay where they talked about, the leadership for this team and how that was an issue last year and how they wanted to improve upon it. But we were right. We got that wrong for sure. So moving on to just sort of the general power ranking stuff of some of the other teams that we had predicted right and wrong. I'll start for another one that I'd gotten wrong, although to be fair, I think you got this one wrong too, and that was the LA Valiant. I think a lot of people got this one wrong.
I had them at 20.
I had them at 19, so not as bad.
Yeah, they actually turned out pretty well. And I mean, it just goes to show, how well a rookie team can do. So that was the point. I think we scored them so low just because of how unpredictable they were. But if you can do them right, you can show how a rookie team is actually pretty good in terms of, the skill gap between a traditional owl team and the best from contenders. So that's also good to know because, we have a bunch of rookies on our team this year.
Yeah, but I'll go one step even further because I agree that we had underestimated Contenders' talent. If you watch the video, we do give a preface that we weren't watching Contenders, so we didn't have accurate reads on these players coming in. But LA Valiant wasn't even your best Contenders' talent, right? Teams like Paris and Florida were the ones that we ranked too low that had brought in the top tier Contenders' talent. But LA Valiant brought a bunch of people who nobody had really heard of before. Some people from seasons past I thought had underperformed, like McGravy. I did say I liked KSP. I was a big fan of KSP when they signed him, so I kind of give myself a little bit. Spencer got that one right because he sort of popped off. But I looked at the tank line. I thought there was no way McGravy and Gig or Dreamer would be able to handle it. And yeah, I was way off on this team because I still think that they're maybe a little bit overrated by the end of the year. I don't think that they were a top 10, top 8 team by any means. I know that the standings sort of say that they were, but I think that was a bit of whatever it's called, the fact that they were split into 2 different divisions. But still, they're really good at Ash Tracer, and that meta was fit their team perfectly, and they were an elite team at that. So I did not see that happening. Their DPS lineup was incredible, and yeah, I completely got that wrong.
Yeah, and even on the things that we completely got wrong, I did terrible on predicting Florida
and Paris, both of us, Florida and Paris.
I had Paris at 19, 18, and I had Florida at 16, 17.
Yeah.
And they both outweighed their rank. I mean, Paris, I think they're just much more consistent than we thought we would be.
100%.
We thought that Sparkle was going to carry and be really the only factor. And we got to see, he really did help in that, one meta, but in the Genji meta. But there was really the rest of the team were able to carry and make them more consistent.
Yeah, I was more right in Florida. If you go back and watch, I sort of talked about how of these teams, Florida had the highest ceiling because I liked how they had mixed the young rookie talent with sort of like veteran presence and like Fate and Gargoyle. And Gargoyle wasn't exactly, sorry, Gargoyle's a better example, but like someone like Fate, for instance, who like had experience, had done it before, and like Saya player and BQB. But yeah, I had them low. Paris, I thought was going to be bad. Again, I think the fact that there was no travel helped a team like Paris. These sort of mixed rosters, if they could actually just stay in one spot and really work on that chemistry and work on that practice. We had initially thought that they would be traveling most of the time, and I thought that communication could be an issue for them. But you're right. I did say that like this team was going to suck before Sparkle came in, and even when he came in, I didn't think it would be enough. But the team was actually, as soon as Hanbin came in, the team started performing well, and then Xe was absolutely phenomenal. And again, Sparkle obviously... Yeah, Xe was excellent. Yeah. And Sparkle performed really well too. But not even just that, because Ben Best looked revitalized, much better than he previously did before. Soon, Nico, I thought those guys, more Nico and Ben Best, but I thought they were kind of like at the tails in their careers. I thought they were sort of, this would be their last French hurrah. But they absolutely overperformed our expectations. Although again, another caveat being, I didn't like the support lineup, and I liked FD God, but between Hip and Gray, I didn't have a lot of faith, and they did pick up Fielder, and I think that made their team a lot better, which neither of us knew in the preseason. So before I hate on this too much, Fielder, I think, impressed a lot of people. So like, let's not forget that he was an addition. I still think if they had Gray and Hip at the end of the year, things might have been a little bit different. But still, definitely exceeded our expectations, as well as Florida.
Talking about pleasant surprises in terms of that note. I thought that going into season 3, I was a lot lower on him. I thought he was getting maybe this last season going to the end of his career.
Why? It might be his last season.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes. But I thought because he was just been like terrible. I think he played a lot better than my expectations would have given him. And I know he's not with Fuel anymore, but I think it's more because of he's literally been there for a really long time, and they just need to switch something up. Just like how Baroy got dropped and picked up. I'm thinking that he may still get picked up, but.
No, Baroy got announced. Baroy got picked up today.
No, I know.
Getting picked. Yeah, so I don't think Baroy. I think Baroy did. I think that wasn't he's been here for too long. We're trying to change things up. That has to be like a communication thing. But whatever, we'll figure that out in a later episode. We'll go into more detail about. We'll try to find out answers for you guys. But in terms of note, yeah, he came in at the end of like season 2, right? He was traded from Boston, so it's not like he's in there since the very beginning. But obviously, they wanted full Korean. They went like big names, and that's why he's not there anymore. I don't think there's going to be a team to pick him up. I think if he had any chance of coming into the league, it was most likely going to be Vancouver, but they decided to go with FRD instead. So I think when Vancouver picked up FRD, I sort of think that you might not see Note, although who knows. He definitely exceeded some of our expectations, but I don't think he was like, I still had him being like kind of a middle of the pack, lower tier main off tank, and I think that's sort of where he finished. Again, the one thing I was right about the Dallas Fuel, which I kept talking about, people are forgetting how good Decay was. And it's easy to say now after his run with the Washington Justice, but if you go back, people were disappointed in his Zarya play at the LA Gladiators. Gladiators maybe didn't have the season a lot of people wanted them to have. They were sort of talking down on him. Maybe he wasn't worth his money. And if you watch the video, I'm like, guys, you guys are sleeping on Decay. This guy's a superstar. Don't forget that. And I think he showed that both in the Dallas Fuel, but especially on the Washington Justice. That's another point for Spencer.
Yeah, that's another point for Spencer. Washington Justice is another one too.
We both beefed on that so hard. We beefed on the Justice so hard.
And it's even harder to say because they did technically suck for most of the season, but then at the very end, they just shot up like a rocket.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. We can't give ourselves credit for that. They signed Johnu, Decay, and Stitch. Like, that team was trash before.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't really predict Corey leaving either.
Yeah.
On that note, too, I mean, Atlanta Reign, like, we both had them really high. I had them at 2, so I had them at 8.
No, I thought it was close for Atlanta Reign. If we get them in the bit, I was going to keep at the bottom 10 before I moved into sort of the top 10 of what we got right and what we got wrong.
Reign's 12.
Yeah, but it's so I put them at 9, I think, or 8. But like again, 8-pack swap kind of like I think impacted certain things. It was a weird year in that regard. So I still think that like putting them at 8th wasn't the end of the year because you're right. You had them at 2. I think Avaz had them at number 3. Like a lot of people had Atlanta really, really highly, and I kept saying, and I might play this clip for you guys. So this might be my hottest take. Chris has them at 2. I have them at 8, and that is the Atlanta Reign.
Spicy take.
So I'll tell you where I might put them after we've done the top 10. The reason I have this team low as I do, I think this team, everyone keeps telling me about the DPS lineup and how good. First of all, I've never seen Edison play, so I don't know how good Edison is. Apparently, he's a god. And if Edison's an absolute beast and he's legitimately one of the best hit scan players in the league, then I have the right to be like, well, sorry, I haven't seen him play yet, and that's fair. So I can stick to that guns. So I agree their DPS is really good with Erster, Sharp, and Edison. The problem is I'm so sick and tired of people talking about how the Toronto Defiant are a bottom 5 team. You're included, Chris. You're included in this. A bottom 5 team because their tank line isn't good, and then they put Atlanta at number 2 with Gator and Hawk. Now, I'm not saying Gator and Hawk are going to be bad. I actually think they're both pretty good. I'm just saying, a bit of me is salty because I think Beast and NYXL is just as good, if not could be better. I like the support line. I think Massa and Dogman's really good. I think the DPS line is really good. I have a lot of question marks with the tank lineup, and that's why I put them as low as I put them. Boom. There it is, because I want to play this clip. Where I was talking about how everyone's talking about how great their tank line is, but everyone's talking about how bad Toronto's tank line is, and I was like, I don't really see a world in which you can sort of not at least think those two tank lines are like somewhat comparable, because in my mind, I know that we had seen them perform really well at the Gauntlet, but it was still always a question mark to me on how they would perform at the Overwatch League level, and I think that NYXL and Hawk and Beast and Gator both had sort of similar upsides and similar downsides, and I think that's exactly what we saw from the Atlanta reign. So even though I didn't get them technically right by putting them down at 12th, I definitely was putting a break on the Atlanta reign hype train that a lot of people were sort of riding, yourself included, putting them at number 2, and you weren't the only one. A lot of people had them really highly.
Well, and also the thing we didn't see is Baby leaving for Valorant.
Yeah, but I don't think that team was, I think, struggling before. I think a lot of people thought I think the thing that no one really saw was Erster not playing. I think a lot of us thought Edison and Erster would sort of be their like dynamic duo, and Erster really didn't get the play time that I think we thought he would. But I'm just bringing it really quickly back to the Justice because, Chris, you had them like at number 10, right? And I think I had them at 12, a lot higher than we thought. I do think that Corey leaving was a bit of an issue for that. So I think that gives us a little bit of a break because we had definitely drank too much Kool-Aid into their stage 4 performance of last year, where they actually looked really, really good. They went like 6-1 when 222 was introduced, and I think we overhyped that a little bit too much. But yeah, Atlanta Reign I actually think was one of the ones that I got right because
Sony
you're so
far off, but you were going in a better direction than the rest of the people.
Yeah, and I think if Shanghai could put a beat down on them, you know what I mean, or they could put a beat down on like the Hunters or London, you might have seen them increase a little bit, but we'll never know.
Let's play around top 10 now.
Yeah.
LA Gladiators. I want to start with something that you really messed up. I was reviewing the video today, guys. And Spencer was like, I know it's a spicy take. I know it's good, but I just have this feeling with the OGE and I was like, oh, he's gonna eat his words today. And he ate his words. I got it right. I predicted at 9. They ended at 9. Spencer was grossly wrong.
Let's get to number 5. Probably my hottest take of the entire thing. The LA Gladiators. Now I know Chris has them at a more reasonable number 9. That seems to be where the community is putting them. I think the biggest thing for me is obviously everybody's going to talk about the DPS lineup. It is by far the biggest question mark on this team. And when you have a top 5 team, it hurts for there to be such a large question mark. My rationale is I kind of am optimistic and I hope Birdring under a new coaching staff, arguably a better coaching staff, under living in LA, a new situation can be revitalized. I actually really like Mirror. I think he's a really good DPS player as well. And Jaru I know less about, but I think he fixed the like sort of Genji role. I think that space and OGE in combination with the amount of like healing and resources, so they can create all those spaces. Sorry, the tank line can create all that space, no pun intended, with space and OGE. And I think it's an incredible tank line. That's one of the best tank lines in the entire league. They're going to obviously get the resources because I think Shaz and Big Goose is one of the best support lineups in the entire league. And I think when you have that much space created and that much and that good of a support line to go along with the tanks, I think it opens up so much room for the DPS. So I don't mind that the DPS is the question mark of this team because I think it's not going to be necessary.
with that like Gladiators.
Yeah, I had a hot take. I put them at 5, and this is global. I put them at I put them top 5. I thought they were going to be a beast of a team. I definitely overrated the tank line of OGE and Space. I thought that was going to be a fantastic fit. It was not. I still think both players are incredibly talented. Like I think that, and we'll do our preseason power rankings for this upcoming season, but I have good things to say about OGE and on Florida. I think that fit makes a lot more sense. And I think that Space still can have a ton of potential, but man, I thought that was going to be good. Their support lineup, I think, wasn't as good as a lot of people thought they're going to be with Bakers and Shaw. Still good players, but again, I thought at an elite support lineup and an elite tank line, we would see good things. And yeah, I do give it a preface as this is my hottest take. And it came back to bite me for sure. So I got to, you were right, Chris. You were absolutely banging on about the LA Gladiators. I
was laughing.
Way too high.
When I watched the past video.
Yeah. Let's talk about one that I absolutely nailed. And that was I shouldn't say I absolutely nailed, but the Shanghai Dragons is a team that sort of, both of us actually ended up putting them lower where they finished, obviously being like well regarded as one of the top 2 teams. I believe I had them as low as.
You didn't nail it. You didn't nail it at all.
No, but I nailed Void, is what I'm trying to say. I'd like to give myself some credit on nailing Void because a lot of people were down on Void going into the year. The same way that, Sideshow was sort of the first one to really buy the Sato stonks. I bought all of Void stonks at the beginning of the year. You go back and watch the clip. Maybe I'll play it for you guys. Absolutely was drinking the Void Kool-Aid as being one of the best off-tanks in the league, even though a lot of people were down on him after his performance with the LA Gladiators, and I think that it showed in spades how talented Void still is.
Okay, well, that doesn't matter if I did good on Void. You still have him ranked at 6th, and they ended up 1st.
Yeah, but if they finished 3rd. Yeah, I know, but again, it's not like, oh man, my prediction's wrong because I put a team at like 3rd and they came 5th, right? Like you're still putting them in the ballpark. Like Gladiators was wrong because I put them top 5 and they very clearly weren't a top 5 team. Like Shanghai was pretty much like, I wanted to put them higher. I just technically I put them 5th because Vancouver imploded, which doesn't really count. But you know what I mean? Like I still thought they were going to be an elite team and I think they were.
They were an elite team. They just deserved a better ranking than you gave them.
Well, yeah.
I literally went to Spencer with my power rankings before he did the original video. I was like, I have Shanghai first. He's like, change that.
Yeah, Shanghai first was a spicy take. But who knows how it would have performed if they were in NA? I still think Shock first was the right call, and we saw it being the right call. And, we'll see. I technically put him 5th. Vancouver imploded. I think if had things been in NA, they still probably are definitely a top 3 team, but things definitely maybe would have been a little bit different, but...
Yeah, the one I hit on the nose, though, NYXL. Everybody had them banked really high. I put a right on the nose at 7. And it made sense. Like, I think their team's down. Their style play was a little bit outdated. Jonak, he's a great player, but, I feel like his roles are a little bit inflexible. And with, hero pools and stuff coming in, it's just so hard for him to, stay extremely, like, at the tier level that he was at in Season 1 and 2. So I'll claim that as a W for me.
Yeah, you actually brought some good point. And I don't think that Jonak was inflexible. I think the problem was that he just wasn't an MVP anymore, right? And you had sort of mentioned that in the video before. He wasn't the MVP Jonak anymore. Like, now is he by no means is he a scrub, right? Still an elite flex support, and I've definitely put him in the upper echelon of players at that position. But he just isn't the dominant flex support that we've sort of seen in Season 1, for instance, and glimpses of in Season 2. And you're right, the team just seemed to not fit 2-2 as well. I thought that Hotba and Who Are You would come in here and make some waves, and they really didn't. You couldn't. I thought Hotba would be an upgrade over Meko. I don't think that it necessarily was. The coaching staff didn't seem to be that massive of an upgrade either. So. Yeah, I had them at 4. I had them a little bit too high, and they even got Haxall and still underperformed. So I think you definitely hit the nail on the head.
Because we all knew Haxall was an absolute beast.
Yeah.
But, talking about failed predictions, I mean, no one could have guessed Vancouver.
Well, no, we kind of could have guessed. I think we say that this team could implode, but our assumption going into it was we don't know that, and I'm just gonna rank them as if it works. And I still think had that team stuck together and had the internal issues been fixed, which is obviously a big if in hindsight, I still think that would have been a top 4 team. That team was so stacked on paper, and I think Fisher wasn't the issue that people thought he was going to be, which by the end of it looked to be true. I still think that would have been a top 3 team. I stand by that prediction. If I could go take a time machine and fix those issues, I think they would absolutely have banged this season. But obviously that's a world that we just don't live in. So yeah, we definitely bombed it, but I give ourselves a little bit of a pass on that one.
A little bit of a pass, but I don't know if we had any indication signs of it like having troubles before that. But if so, we definitely should have taken, those exterior things into consideration.
Well, we did because like Bumper had left, right? Like Bumper like randomly was benched in season 4 or in the finals, and then like left the team, and we had heard rumblings. Anyways, whatever. Like, there's no point in harping on this because you're right. But I just made my predictions based on like, let's just say it works, because if it doesn't, then we're not going to be able to predict it, right? Then there's no point in doing a prediction video where it's like, where you're wrong either way. I was like, either we're right one way or we're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, let's choose one path and take it. The biggest one that I got right, and this was what I had harped on all season, was the Philadelphia Fusion. I am drinking some people, bro, I'm getting so sick and tired of people being like Sato, and therefore they're like number 7. I think it's absolute Pega take. I don't think, like, is Sato a top 5 main tank? Probably not. But there's no way he is so bad that you can overlook Carpe EQO, Ivy as your DPS lineup, that you can overlook Fury as your off tank, and that you can overlook Alarm, Boombox, and Funny Astro as your support players. We've heard fantastic things about Funny Astro. Alarm was supposed to be for the longest time the best flex support outside of the Overwatch League. Fury's the best flex tank, if not off tank, if not the second best off tank in the entire league. We've seen Ivy at his best. We know how he can perform. Carpe and EQO is iconic. Poco, for God's sakes, is their backup tank. Like, bro, I am so high on this team, and I don't know why people are putting them so low and just being like, well, Sato. Like, every team has a question mark. And if this becomes a monkey meta, oh my God, this team is the best team in the, like, you know what I mean? I think Funny Astro is going to be one of the best main supports in the entire league. I think Alarm is going to be one of the best flex supports in the entire league. I think Fury is going to be one of the best off tanks in the entire league. I think Ivy, EQO, and Carpe is going to be one of the best DPS lineups in the entire league. Like, it's like 5 out of 6 positions are top 5 in the entire league, if not top 3.
Yeah.
And I don't think Sato is that bad. I don't think he's top 5, but he's not, like, I think this team could be a top 18 with Yakpung. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Okay, let's move on.
and if you go back to the beginning of the year, everybody was down on Philadelphia. Most people have them at 6, 7, 8. A big reason that was Sato. And while I didn't predict the Sato stonks rising the same way that Sideshow did, I did put a break to 1, I don't think he's as trash as everyone makes him out to be. But 2, even if he is, that roster was so stacked going into this year that I had them at number 3, I believe. I think they finished 3rd or 2nd. And even though in the very grand finals they ended up coming in 4th, I still think that's like this team was stacked from the very beginning. This, in my opinion, was always a really, really good team. And I was always surprised that people put them so low, because on paper, man, everybody at every position was like top 3, top 4, top 5. So I never understood why people had Atlanta at like 2, 3, and then Philly at 7, 7, 8. And I sort of flipped them, and that was a little bit of a correct take by Spencer.
Yeah, you know what? I totally agree. Like, everybody was down on Pokpo, and also, and sorry, losing my train of thought there. Yeah, Carpe, everybody was like, yeah, shit. And now when he got sent to Fine, everybody's like,
yeah.
So it's just kind of hilarious. And I wasn't like Spencer. I had them a little lower, so I was kind of one of those people, and I admit to that too. So I'm definitely not out of the fire ring there. Yeah. But that's a good one, Spencer. I applaud you for that. But the one that we all got right, and it was easy enough to predict, was San Francisco Shock.
Such a good team,
obviously.
Yeah, and
they are more good people.
Yeah.
Like what?
No, they're arguably better this year. No, they are better this year because they added Twilight, which, I mean, I know they did it at halfway through the year, but in our preseason we put them at number 1, and that was before we knew how good Ons would be. That was before we knew the fact that they would get Twilight. Man, this team is incredibly stacked, especially going into next year. But yeah, we called San Francisco Shock being number 1. There was never really a doubt in my mind that it was the best team. Going into it, people thought Shanghai would win it. The grand finals, we were shocked all the way. I never had any doubt that when the chips were down, we would sort of get this one correct. Which brings me to the final team that I wanted to talk about, because it's one of the ones that I was like the most right while simultaneously being the most wrong on. And this was the Seoul Dynasty. The way I looked at this team is they are a worse version of the London Spitfire of last year. And if I had taken the London Spitfire's roster, I wouldn't have them in the top 6 from last year. And it's London Spitfire, but with no Fury, and no previous chemistry.
I think Seoul is London Spitfire revitalized. You know what? They did really well first season. They lost some people. You know, they went off track second season, and now, you know, Seoul's regained the great like Dozen, Prophet Gesture, and they're kind of just going to revitalize it. That's how I see it.
If this team had kept Fleta, I completely agree. The problem is, I think London Spitfire from last year was good, and then other teams came in, other Korean contenders came in, and they showed that they could also perform at a really high level. And then this year, it's like if London Spitfire got worse, and then all the better teams around London just got better, right? With like Philadelphia got better, you know, Shanghai got a lot better, the Charge got a lot better. San Francisco Shock obviously got a lot better. You know what I'm trying to say, though? Atlanta Reign got a lot better. Like, a lot of teams improved, and I look at this being like London Spitfire as if they like got worse. Who do you run between Marvel and Gesture? Like, there's an argument to be said that Marvel's the better option. So I expect them to make a trade, because there's actually a lot of teams that could probably use a main tank. I've heard good things about Fitz and Illicit, but I just haven't seen enough for me to put them in the upper echelon. I had them at 9. Chris has them at 10. Let's move on to number 8. Everybody had the Seoul Dynasty being in their top 5, top 6. A lot of people were really high on this team, and I never really was. If you walk back and watch the video, I sort of put them at 9. My whole argument being that it was like London light, that they were like the London Spitfire of old, but just like not as good. Because like I get that they got Prophet, and that's great, and I get that they got Bedozen and Gesture, but I was like, instead of Marvel or instead of Fury, you know, they have Michelle. Instead of Prime Birdring, they had Fitz. Right? Instead of, well, I guess, I mean, Toby's really good, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, those two players, like, very clear downgrades. And it almost ended up being a perfect prediction, because it was, like, literally London, but not as good. They, like, struggled during the regular season, underperformed. I had them at 9. They finished 11th, dead on. But then, of course, the grand finals come around. And just like London in season 1, where London won the entire thing, this year, they go on a really good run, but because they're not as good as London season 1, instead of winning the entire thing, they actually end up only coming second. So,
you know what? I give you that too. Like, that was a hot prediction. You were using your logical brain, not going off of emotions.
Yeah, but at the same time, I did put them at 9, and they technically came second in the league, so I kind of got it wrong. Because if you had asked me in preseason, do I think they'll finish second in grand finals, I would have said no way.
No, you got it right. It's just like when we do our predictions, it's pretty much we're basing it off of, you know, like your kind of law of averages, right? If you do the whole season, this is what's going to happen. You know, playoffs is playoffs. You can throw in wrenches there. If it's one game, there's variability in it. So I go off of that.
Yeah.
Our regular season play.
Any other ones you want to talk about? Because I think we already got the big ones that I got wrong, which was LA, NYXL, the other LA, Paris, Florida. Houston, I kind of got wrong. I had Houston like 13. Let's bring it back a little bit. I thought they'd perform better. I thought that team would gel a little bit better than it ended up gelling. They definitely, I thought they had potential to even go higher, and they didn't. Oh yeah, Washington. I fucking botched Washington, man. So bad.
Yeah. One other thing, you know, apart from that, I was very surprised about. This is not even power rankings. Just put on Toronto's side too. I was very surprised that they didn't go full Western roster. I thought we were getting good indications for this upcoming season that we're gonna have some Western roster, but we're going full Korean, no Canadians. That's gonna be interesting. We'll talk more about that.
Oh, you mean like going into this upcoming season? Yeah, predictions from if you will go back and watch our Leon Master video, we talk about sort of what our dream team was and our scenarios. And yeah, we were pretty dead set on full Western speaking, and it seems like it's almost full Korean, which is like, you're right. Like, had we just done this from season 1, things would definitely be a lot different. Yeah, no, I was wrong on that.
Yeah, which is interesting. Anyway, I have nothing more to add. Guys, we have some really good videos lined up.
Yeah, this was fun. I like this. We should do this more often. We're like, instead of just looking at the preseason power rankings, we like actually go through some of our takes and some of our predictions and look back on like some of our potato analysis, but also some moments we like low-key called it.
I'm hoping that halfway through the Call of Duty season, we can go back to
we don't have to bring that up. We don't have to bring that up. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how Call of Duty. This is an Overwatch channel. This is positive notes only.
Well, guys, if you liked what you hear and liked us chatting, once again, please smash that like button as hard as you smash Reinhardt's hammer when he does a Earth Shatter. Really helps the algorithm and get our videos out there so other Toronto Defiant fans can see our content too and join the CAOverwatch community.
Absolutely, man. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, enjoy.